Is it ready?
Yeah, whenever.
All right. Welcome into the Room for Improvement podcast. My name is Sebastian Posey. Sitting across from me is Mr. Josh Zavadil. Josh, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. I'm sitting across from you. I am enjoying the great spectacle that is the World Cup in the day, and now I'm enjoying the great spectacle that is the NBA draft at night. So I'm having a pretty good day. How are you?
I am also having a pretty good day. And you mentioned it. It's the NBA draft. It seems like only 6.5 weeks ago we were sitting in the same room recording a podcast about the NFL draft. And now we're here talking NBA draft. We are a few picks in. Josh, instant analysis, because I know you love those two words put together, but frankly, I don't care.
Instant analysis, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers made... they couldn't really make a wrong choice. First pick overall.
Cleveland, they could find a way.
It was Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker were the two guys that they have been going back and forth on throughout this week, and they settled. Yeah, it's not really settling. They settled with Andrew Wiggins and chose the guy out of Kansas, and I think that was a big pick, and he is the most hyped player coming out of the draft, as many have said, since LeBron James, really. So I think it's been good so far. There haven't been too many head scratchers in this draft for me.
Andrew Wiggins, Jabari Parker, if you were Dan Gilbert and the rest of the Cleveland front office, would you have also gone Wiggins, or would you have gone Parker?
Me?
Yes.
I would have gone Wiggins. I've always liked Wiggins. I like Jabari Parker as well, but Wiggins is a guy who's going to be able to come in and defend at an NBA level right away. He already has the athleticism. He already has the offensive tools to be good at the next level, but he can come in and defend the wing players immediately, and I think that's something that is hard to pass up because those types of players don't come along too often. Players like Jabari Parker don't come along too often either. But for as much as Wiggins brings to the table now and both in the future, I would have only drafted Joelle Embiid ahead of him before Embiid's injury.
This is interesting. I agree with you on everything on Wiggins. I like Parker better, but it's just because I like to play it safe sometimes. And I think he has Wiggins, I definitely think, has the higher, quote-unquote ceiling. But to me, Parker seems like he might be the safer player. I think if you told me only one of them would be a, true franchise player, it probably would be Wiggins. But I think if you told me out of the two of them, one of them would become a really good player, not a great player, really good player, and the other one would fade out, I would probably think you're talking Parker. And I think that's a safer pick sometimes. But then again, hey,
Well, Parker has that skill set that everybody saw in college, and just I don't know. He has the more, I guess, attractive offensive skill set that, to me, and that's why people have gravitated towards him, it seems like, because they're like, oh, well, he did this, and that, and at Duke, and he has this skill set that is just NBA ready, while these other players are going to have to work at it. These other players are going to have to put the work in, and I think that's what a lot of people looked at when they were trying to sell themselves on either Wiggins or Parker. But at the same time, again, these are two phenomenal players who I think are going to be stars in this league, and they couldn't really go wrong either way. Parker is going to go be the guy for the Milwaukee Bucks, a franchise that needs somebody to come in and be the guy. And I think that's great for him, a good situation for him. He's going to be able to go up there with Giannis and Greek last name, and that's going to be a fun franchise to watch over the next couple of years.
That guy's name has 19 T's and 14 S's in it?
And Antetokounmpo, I believe.
Yeah, close enough. You do raise a good point, though, and I think Wiggins makes a little more sense for Cleveland in the sense that, and I'm quoting the 1997 huge mega classic film Double Team with Jean-Claude Van Damme and
totally
Dennis
not
Rodman.
seen that one.
What? So you're the only one.
Probably not the only one.
Jean-Claude Van Damme's great line of offense gets the glory, but Dennis Rodman's quick comeback of but defense wins the championship.
Ugh.
And Cleveland needs a defense. They were atrocious last year, even under Mike Brown, who is actually a very good defensive coach. They've blown up that. I think you're going to see a complete different look on them with the, I believe he is Russian, Blatt coming in. He did coach the Russian national team to a bronze medal at the last Olympic Games. So, maybe you'll see a completely different side with them. And I think you're right with Wiggins being much, at least more NBA ready on the defensive end than Parker is. So,
and you've got in Cleveland now, you've got Kyrie Irving, who I don't think he's on max money yet, but he's gonna be.
I think it's his last.
Right.
He was drafted in 11.
Right. So next year he's gonna be on a max deal, and they're gonna keep him there most likely, barring the Lakers or one of these super franchises being like, "Oh, come play for us," and luring him away because Hollywood and all that.
Well, he did say he wants out at one point.
Yeah, but that's before they drafted Andrew Wiggins.
That's true.
So now you've got Kyrie Irving, Andrew Wiggins, and you've got room to improve down low, but you've still got Varejao, you still got Tristan Thompson, and you still have your prospect from past couple, Dion Waiters, who has not performed up to the expectations that people had with him coming out of the draft, but he's still a good, prospect. And so I think they have a lot to work with moving forward, and having Blatt there, a guy who's well respected as a coach, it's a good situation for him to be coming into. He was extremely excited when that first pick came in.
Well, and I think, and we talked about this in a previous podcast of just getting the new blood of coaches in, kind of a rotation of new guys in. And Blatt, he's coming in from Europe, but he has a really good pedigree from where he's been. He's done very well everywhere he's been. So I think that's going to be really fun to watch, to see what he can do with that team and see if he can keep Kyrie Irving and see if they want to keep him, or see if he wants to sign a max deal with them and, be the tag team going forward of him and Wiggins, which could be very fun to watch if that pans out.
By the way, just a fact correction. Blatt is from Boston, Massachusetts.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so he just coached.
He's an Israeli American from
I am
Boston,
so off on that. I guess just because he coached the Russian team, I immediately want to assume he's Russian.
Yeah, well, look at the World Cup. There's plenty of coaches coaching in the World Cup who are not from that country.
Well, I know, but, just...
Well, just fact-checking here live on the podcast.
Well, I'm also fact-checking, and apparently Double Team only has an 11% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which makes me very sad.
Oh, man.
People just don't understand the classic that is Double Team.
That's what I say about Homeward Bound every time I talk about that movie. And most people are like, yeah, I loved that movie. It was great, and it was like one of the best things about my childhood, but they don't love it as much as me. And I'm like, that's a classic. That's Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, classic.
And Shadow does have more range than Jean-Claude Van Damme does.
I would agree. I would agree.
I'm actually right now Googling a way to get a copy of Double Team.
Oh, wow. Look at eBay, maybe? Watching this live, Doug McBuckets just got drafted.
Higher than I thought he would go, actually. I thought he was going to be one of those guys where he'd kind of fall. Like, he was a huge college player, but then, draft analysis always puts it, they always find your negatives more than your positives, and it just started coming out more and more that he just was never going to translate to the NBA. I figured you'd see him fall. I figured he'd end up like at best, I guess maybe a Jimmer Fredette, but Jimmer hasn't done anything in the NBA, so it's fair to assume that maybe he would have fallen. And oh boy, that is not good when you're getting compared to Adam Morrison. Although he does have a championship. So.
One of the biggest knocks about Doug McDermott, his nickname is Dougie McBuckets from people on the internet. And if you're listening to this and you had no clue who I was talking about the small forward from Creighton. One of the biggest knocks against him coming into this draft is usually what I've heard is his defense. He's a prolific scorer. I think his true shooting percentage on I think it was catch and shoots with no one around him. He 96.7%.
I actually think it was actually 97. I think it actually was a rounded up.
Unreal number.
Yeah.
He was the 2013-2014 Player of the Year, fifth leading scorer in Division I history. This guy can shoot the ball, and he can do it in a number of different ways. And now I'm sounding like every other analyst on TV, but it's true. And I think that I don't know. I have high hopes for Doug McDermott, that he has what it takes to put the work in to be able to defend at an NBA level, as well as be the scorer that he showed in college that he can be.
Well, yeah, and I think a guy like him, he did what he needed to do on that team. Creighton was a very good team, albeit a smaller school. But he played his role. He played it well. Our feed just froze. That's never good. But, if he is truly as good of a player as we think he is, he will be able to translate into that. And, hey, if not, there's a lot of people who have made successful careers out of just being shooters. One that immediately comes to my head right now is Redick, who's doing it over with the Clippers. Now, granted, Redick never materialized to be a true star player, but he's found a role. And if it comes down to that for McBuckets, that's not a terrible career if he ends up being a solid shooting option for a team.
And people always criticize those types of players, but teams need that guy. You need somebody who you can run off of screens and baseline stuff and pin downs.
You know who could have used them?
Just to get an open shot. Who could have used them?
Miami.
Miami could have used them.
I'm just saying, think about it. Like, it's the idea of you want someone to be an all-around player, which, yeah, is great, but not everyone is. If you have a role and if you fit into a certain mode, certain style, you can have a great career. You can come in handy quite often.
What do you think about actually, before we do that, Philadelphia at number 3 chose Joelle Embiid from Kansas, the big man, 7-foot center, who just had surgery on his foot for a stress fracture in his navicular bone, I believe is what it was, and has screws in his foot, is looking at, I think, a 4 to 6 month rehabilitation period.
Yeah, I believe so.
And
I'm not a doctor, though.
There were a lot of teams there was a lot of chatter that he was falling quickly. Celtics and the Lakers. Oh, wow. The Celtics and the Lakers were two of the teams that were rumored to they were going to take him if they had a chance. And lo and behold, third pick in the draft, Philadelphia is like, you know what? No, we got to do it. These guys don't come around that often. We got to do it and deal with it. What do you think about that?
I think it's, well, first off, because he's chilling in L.A. right now, so he basically just pulled the reverse Fresh Prince because he's going from L.A. To West Philadelphia. Look, it's a risk because you don't know, and I think the term is quote unquote soft bone density is what some people are worried with him. Look, you're drafting this guy because of his potential. The guy is at one point was going to be the number 1 pick in this draft. He still could have been the number 1 pick in this draft despite the injuries. That's how good of a player he is. If you're Philadelphia, you don't have anything else going for you at the moment, roll the dice on him. I see nothing. Especially a team like Philly who has another top 10 pick. If he pans out, that's going to be huge for them. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But frankly, the other two guys, to me, I know the talk was them, and then you throw in Exum and Randall potentially, and it was kind of like the two tiers. You had you had Wiggins, you had Parker, you had Embiid, and Exum was kind of in that tier too. But Parker and Wiggins are gone. Why do you not take Embiid in that situation? I would do the same thing.
I'm not in the front office. We know this. I work at a television station, but I'm always of the thought
that decent desk though.
It is. That you take the best talent available.
Exactly.
Regardless of need, you take the best talent available. Sure, there's some exceptions to that, but that's always what I've thought. Also, Doug McDermott has been traded to the Chicago Bulls for the 16th pick.
He had a great run with the Nuggets.
Yeah. The tweet I just read is...
remember you.
Oh, gosh. It's like a never-ending lame reference to music and movies. R.I.P. Dougie McNuggets nickname.
I was just thinking that too. Like right when he got drafted, I was like, "There's going to be so many great McNuggets jokes with him," and it's gone. It's unfair. The Bulls robbed us of this. Boycott the Bulls. Actually, don't. That just seems dumb. No, but back to Embiid. I think it's unfair that he's already getting compared to Greg Oden or Sam Bowie. Look, you can't predict injuries. If you could, that'd be an amazing talent. And yeah, he's had a history of some issues, but look, that doesn't mean he's going to continue to do it. I fully back that pick, and hopefully it really was a delay, and she is excited to play in Philadelphia, despite what it seemed like when they were showing him live. But no, I think it's a great pick for Philly, and I think it's something that can get the franchise who has a great history kind of back in the right direction.
And our beloved Boston Celtics selected point guard Marcus Smart from Oklahoma State. Because really the players they thought might fall to them had not fallen to them, and they had worked out Marcus Smart twice. Danny Ainge spoke about how much he loved his, quote, fire. I think it's a good pick because with the uncertainty of Avery Bradley in this offseason, you might lose your shooting guard. This is a guy who already knows how to defend at a high level, probably an NBA level. He's coming in and he has the court vision of a point guard, something Avery Bradley hasn't even had in like one or two of his dreams since he's been living on this earth. And
you don't know that.
I know all things about
Are you in Avery Bradley's head?
Huh?
Are you in Avery Bradley's head?
I am.
Do you see everything? Or is it like being John Malkovich, only it's being Avery Bradley? Like there's a little door that you
I don't
go
get that
into?
reference. I'm going to keep going.
Oh, my God.
I think it's a good pick because now you have that kind of fallback just in case you can't re-sign Avery for what you wanted to re-sign him for, which is a very good possibility with the money he's probably going to demand. And then you have the possibility that they like Marcus Smart enough that they're going to ramp up trade efforts for Rajon Rondo and really make the fireworks that Danny Ainge has been hinting at.
I think, too, on kind of piggybacking off the Rondo, even if they don't trade Rondo, it gives them, I think, a safety blanket to where, going into Rondo, I think his contract's up after this year, or is it the year after?
I think it's a year. Maybe it's this year. I don't know.
Either way,
time is endless.
Thank you for that huge life-altering nugget of wisdom. McNugget of wisdom there. I think it gives him a chance, though, if Marcus Smart really kind of pans out the way that they do, and you and me as Celtic fans hope he does. I think it gives them an opportunity that if they can't move Rondo, or if they can't work together, and God forbid Rondo just walks for nothing, you have something in its place.
Yeah. And he's going to have to work on his offensive side. I mean, shooting-wise, but he can get to the rim. He can shoot. He's not Avery Bradley coming into the league who couldn't hit the – he couldn't even hit – he could hit the broadside of the barn, but he would probably make it fall over because it was such an awful shot.
Might be a pretty powerful shot, though.
Yeah. Avery Bradley back rim shots his first 2 years were probably, I wouldn't be able to count them on 3,000 hands.
Have you tried?
No, I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't be able to. I know I would. I can't count that high.
I just think it'd be cool if you found 3,000 hands.
Oh my
like,
goodness.
Are they on people? Like, what's the deal here?
The Timberwolves will take Zach Levine. I don't even know how to pronounce that name because I've heard it pronounced 20 different ways from, I believe, UCLA, who I was kind of hoping the Celtics would get, but who cares?
Just give up on the guy.
I'm just who cares?
Just went like Uber fan. I was really hoping he'd follow him, but he didn't. Screw that guy. Get him off. No, done.
Oh man,
I'm actually shocked. I mean, Dougie was the only. I guess he is the only really trade they've had so far. It's the one thing I hate about drafts is just all the rumors going into them. It's like, oh, these picks are gonna get traded, and there's been one trade.
Yeah.
It's a little, it's disappointing sometimes.
Oh, Dario Saric Saric, I don't know how you pronounce his name either,
is not a show about pronunciations.
Is being traded from Orlando to Philly, and Philly's trading Elfrid Payton to Orlando. So that's another trade.
Oh, good. We have 2.
Yeah, we have 2. There's been talks of a ton of trades, but nobody could really offer. I don't think anybody could really offer what they needed to offer. And a interesting note, I hope they show this on the live stream of at least something. Isaiah Austin, who was projected to be taken in this draft, is no longer allowed to play basketball. He's been medically ruled out.
Talking about the Baylor player?
Yes, for Marfan syndrome, because he has Marfan syndrome. He also has dealt with a lot of other medical issues throughout his life, and he's headed to the green room right now with his family. So I hope ESPN chooses to document that moment, because it's probably going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a rough thing to think about. He was projected, I believe, a late first-round pick, maybe mid, just depending on a team. But I obviously we can't really relate because we've never been that level.
Yeah.
But the idea of
thinking
you were on your way to your dream of getting drafted into the National Basketball Association,
and the week before.
Yeah, just taken completely away from. That's a rough thing, and I think a lot of times it's so easy in this day and age of social media that it's easy just to kind of pick on these guys and everything, and they are kids. They're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who this is what they want. This is a lot of them. We're watching the biggest moment of some of these kids' lives.
Yeah.
And to know that he was a week away from it and have that ripped away from that's rough.
And he's handled it with as much grace as you can handle something like this. I know if I had been told just before the biggest moment of my life that everything I've worked for 18, however old he is, I think he was older than 18.
Yeah,
I
he
think
wasn't
he's
a freshman.
In his 20s.
I believe he was a junior.
Everything I've worked for that long has been ripped out from under me, and I can't play because I have a medical issue that might hurt me if I play. I don't know how I would take that, but he's been very gracious in the way he's handled it. He's just been flat out saying that he believes everything happens for a reason, and he's worked this hard to play basketball, and whatever is his next endeavor, he's going to work just as hard. And this isn't the end of the road for him. It's not like he's dead. He's moving on and choosing a different career path, and I fully believe that he's going to be great at whatever he does.
I wouldn't be shocked too if you end up seeing him on a team's sideline at some point. If I don't think his NBA dream is potentially over. I think he's the kind of guy who will find a way back into the sport, just on a different level.
Let's see. T.J. Warren is about to be taken because there's a guy on Twitter named Adrian Wojnarowski who is in everybody's heads apparently in the front office. He takes everybody's dreams and just crushes them because we all want to watch this draft with intense suspense, and we can't if we're on Twitter.
I picture him sitting in a room with one of those old school big phone switchboards that's tapped into every single team. It was 30 teams, all their front offices just punching lines and writing things down. He's probably not doing that, but I feel like if he's going to be that guy, at least have some cool little story he's doing it with.
Just baffles me how he gets these picks. He gets the scoop before anybody else on Twitter.com. It's unreal.
Do you think there's a team out there that would give him just an awful we're actually trading this pick for,
and then they don't?
Yeah, but I mean not even a realistic one, something so awful that he has to really push. No, I have sources telling me that the Lakers just traded Kobe for the 18th overall pick.
With as deep as his sources are, league sources are, I don't think that would ever happen. But Danny Ainge, so far, whoever it was, that's his source about the Boston Celtics, he was the latest on that so far. Because initially the Celtics were talking about trading for Ben McLemore with Sacramento, and then that fell through just a few minutes beforehand. And then it was It was not too long before the draft clock was up for the Celtics that they finally found out what they were planning on doing from Adrian.
Well, I think, and this could be a topic all on its own for a different show, but just the idea of the word sources, because it gets people off so easily of just saying, I have sources, but you never can't attribute them to anything.
He always phrases it, and most sports writers phrase it as league source. And I think, this is getting into a journalistic topic, but sports writing, I think it's a lot less of an issue to quote somebody and say league source and such. Whereas in journalistic stuff, that type of sourcing can always be a little bit iffy.
Yeah, and for all you know, like his source, I think the situation's like that too. Like it could be somebody who's in the room but doesn't actually know, who kind of overhears a little bit of it, or it could be Terry at a bar in the middle of Boston screaming he wants Ben McLemore. Hopefully not that bad, but it hurts it, I think, a lot. And again, like I don't want to go off on that topic. I just think it gets so annoying that you have a free pass to say league sources tell me, and then when it doesn't happen, like people change their minds. But if they get it right, they want to continuously remind you of, hey, 4 years ago I told you. Like I think Chris Broussard did that with the Bosch going to Miami. Like, congrats, you got that right.
Which is funny because I just saw a tweet that said, has Broussard ever broken an actual story?
I'm pretty sure he did break that one. I'll give him credit for that one, but that's the only thing I ever give him credit for.
Oh, man.
Which, again, another thing they can just go into. Tearing apart people at ESPN, and that's not fair.
That's not fair.
It's not fair at all to them. Well, some of them.
And the Hawks are on the clock right now. I have no idea what I think about what the Hawks need, other than better fans.
Well, the Hawks, they're an interesting situation. You look at a team like the Hawks who find themselves basically in the exact same spot every single year in the lower half of, like, they make the playoffs, but they're always like a 6, a 7, or 8 seed. Look, I understand you want to measure success by saying that we make the playoffs, but if you're continuously making the playoffs as a team who's getting bounced in the first round or that weird occasional second round trip that you shouldn't have made, no, like I feel like the Hawks, they're that team that needs to completely blow up and start over because they're not quite there. But they don't want to do it because they feel like they're close. But they're not. At least not, like, the East is so bad. Just statistically the last few years, the East has been so bad, and they still can't climb the ranks.
Well, they also kind of tore stuff down when they traded away Josh Smith and Joe Johnson, and they had to basically decide which way they were going with the franchise.
Did they trade Smith? I thought he just signed with.
Well, but he's no longer
they didn't
there.
sign him.
So they no longer have these guys that have been fixtures in that locker room that have not been awful. Like, we love joking about Josh Smith because he has awful shot selection.
Oh boy!
But to say that he's an awful basketball player is,
if you're in the NBA,
not a smart thing to say. He has very bad shot selection, and that's that. But he was a very good player for the Atlanta Hawks for some time. And he's no longer there. Joe Johnson's now in Brooklyn. They decided to go in a different direction as a franchise. And they got a Greg Popovich, I guess, apostle, one of his assistants, Budenholzer.
Like disciple.
Yeah, disciple. As his their head coach, Budenholzer. I can't pronounce anything tonight.
It is just not your night.
It's not my night. And, we'll see where they go from here. I still have not seen who the Hawks are taking other than the jokes on Twitter saying they will draft fans.
Man, that's hilarious.
Easy joke right there.
Look, I'm not afraid to admit that sometimes I go the route of the easy joke, but I think some jokes are too easy.
Easy jokes are what created memes.
They are. Well, that's what a meme is.
Easy jokes are what created memes, therefore I hate easy jokes.
I mean, the meme is the template for the easy joke. There's literally sites for them.
Yeah, there is. Know your meme. Can we talk about the different pronunciations of memes real quick? Because I didn't know that there were people that existed that pronounce that word
Meme?
other than meme. They pronounce it meme.
Yeah. Well, because they're reading it like those me. No, it's meme. But then again, like you can make the argument of GIF is GIF.
Yeah.
It's the reason these are internet terms, so you can just search them, not say them.
Yeah. We're getting really close to the 17th pick from the Celtics. Atlanta is on the clock for 50 more seconds. What do you want to see the Celtics focus on in the second pick? I don't know if you've delved into, the people who were not at the very top of this draft class. They were looking at, many people said they would probably be looking at TJ Warren. He's now off the board.
Yeah, unfortunately, the name I had actually really zeroed in on was Warren. And so, quite frankly, I was so concerned. Like, I was so interested to see if they would trade out of 6. That 17 really wasn't an issue that I'd really kind of looked too much into. And I latched onto Warren. I thought he was a great player. I thought he would be a good fit in what they're building in Boston. So I don't know. Like I'm to the point with Boston where they're not really like there yet. So I'm cool with whatever the kind of direction they want to go in right now. The face you just made scares me, as if you know something.
Well, I was just about to mention I wouldn't hate the Celtics taking Adrian Payne from Michigan State, but the Atlanta Hawks
just took Adrian
Payne. Ugh. So now I have no idea who you go to.
Well, maybe this is their moment to trade down. Maybe it's something where they look at, because I don't know what you trade down.
They want to get into the second round, but I don't see why you trade a 17th pick with talent available to go to the second round.
No.
That's not something they do. I mean, available people looking like available is going to be Gary Harris, shooting guard, Michigan State, Rodney Hood, who is also a small forward from Duke. Then you've got Shabazz Napier available. You still have Tyler Ennis available, but you're not going to take 2 point guards. You have Mitch McGarry available, Clint Capella, an international player. And then you have P.J. Hairston available, who has been faced a lot of criticism for his actions at UNC and played in the D-League this past year and just killed it in the D-League. So, I mean, who knows?
Well, there you go. You can get 2 character issue guys, because that's always a fun thing to say.
And I don't think the tabs against character issues against Marcus Smart are good. I think they're dumb.
This is me poking you. Come on.
He has been
get it going. Get the Josh rant going.
He has had one incident that I can think of that just really made people think he had character issues. And the biggest one was when he lashed out against a fan this past season. He lashed out against a fan because he was called a racial slur and when he fell underneath the basket. Not saying that I would be able to keep my cool, but I probably wouldn't be able to keep my cool. And I think when we're throwing around this guy's a head case and he's got all these problems stuff about him, we need to take into consideration what happened to push said person perhaps over the edge. Maybe he should have thought about his actions, but in the heat of the moment, sometimes people don't. I'm not trying to give him a pass for his actions, but I'm saying the character issues thing is much overblown.
Well, I think a slight running theme of this podcast so far has been the unfair criticisms, but like, it's easy to sit there and look at that afterwards and say that, oh, he shouldn't get up and he shouldn't, slug a guy even if it is something like that. But okay, the game, I forget who they're playing, but you're in the final seconds of the game, you're trying to win this, you get knocked to the floor, and all of a sudden you hear somebody calling you something. How are you going to react? It's your adrenaline's up. You're so close to either a loss or a victory. You get knocked to the floor. The way he acted, I feel most people would act. Doesn't justify it, but then again, it doesn't change the fact that I think that was a normal reaction.
Yeah,
that doesn't make you a head case. It makes him a kid. It makes him
a human.
Yeah, it makes him somebody who is emotional on the court because the situation called for his emotions to be up on the court, and something off the court happened that he reacted with in a, I mean, not normal fashion, but in an understandable one.
Oh boy, so the Bulls are on the clock right now again, but we'll see. They are just basically drafting for the Nuggets here.
Yeah, it's Chicago is drafting for Denver, which was originally a pick from Charlotte.
So now you're all confused. Good. If you've made it this far, you're all confused.
No, I've gone cross-eyed.
Was that
That's a movie reference that you won't get.
No.
One of these days, I'm going to make a movie reference, and you're going to get it. And it's going to be a wonderful moment for me.
They will draft Jusuf Nurkic.
What?
Jusuf Nurkic. And the Celtics will be on the clock momentarily.
I know every one of you is on the edge of your seat listening to
every one. Hi, Mom.
Yeah, we're literally saying every one. There's one person listening to this. Quite frankly, it might just be one of us listening to it back to make sure it sounds okay.
Yeah.
In which case, we might be on the edge of our seat because just depending on how I sit that way sometimes.
Well, we call this the Room for Improvement podcast because we have room for improve. And it's kind of funny that we're doing the Room for Improvement podcast when there is a actual draft going on for teams who have room for improvement. Like, is your mind blown right now? Because mine is.
I mean, clearly this is on purpose.
Yeah.
And that you didn't just say that for the first time as if we never actually put two and two together on teams having room for improvement for us to do a Room for Improvement podcast.
Nope, never.
How did that not? Yeah, my mind's blown.
Yeah, your mind is blown, and I am just here to say you're welcome.
So we missed the boat then, so we should have done it for the MLB draft, 2 weeks ago? All 400 rounds of it? That could have been a fun one.
Oh, I wouldn't have known anything. I don't know anything about baseball prospects.
Johnny Manziel was drafted.
He was drafted. Now, I want some team like the last pick in this draft just to be like, you know what, I'm taking Johnny Manziel. Let him have his heyday from every major sport. That would be hilarious if the Cavs traded to the last pick so they could take Johnny Manziel.
Why not? I mean, come on. What are you taking with that pick?
Draft day, Johnny Manziel. Draft day, A. Wiggins from that classic Drake song would have complete meaning in one song.
Pretty much. Oh, and we missed the hockey one, too. Why didn't somebody draft him there? Every sport drafts him.
Adam Silver acknowledges Isaiah Austin, who gets a standing ovation. And that was a really cool moment that Adam Silver just gave Isaiah Austin, as we've been talking about him. Gets the standing ovation and gets to go on to, the stage and gets drafted by the NBA, as Adam Silver said. Gets to fulfill that dream of hearing his name called, whether it's the right circumstances that he wanted or not. But as you heard in the interview, he has a very good outlook on what this means for him.
Yeah, it's a cool moment. I think a lot of times it's easy to kind of pick on these organizations for what they do wrong, and hats off to NBA for doing that to him. It's unfortunate that it's not a real team, but it could have been something just as easily where NBA just acknowledged him, and to give him that opportunity to come on stage, to put the hat on, to get his picture taken. That's the circumstances are obviously not ideal, but that moment was perfect. And I think that, Adam Silver is basically having the best first year a commissioner could ever have.
Oh, absolutely.
He was handed a great situation with Sterling, because I don't think anyone's going to side with Sterling. And then you have stuff like this happen. Yeah, it's a great move for the NBA, and hats off to him for that.
That's awesome. And the Boston Celtics are going to select James Young from Kentucky, a small forward who can play a little bit of the two if need be. That's an interesting pick. I don't hate it. I can't say that I have enough knowledge about James Young and as to what he brings to the table to give proper analysis of him, but they need another small forward, and I'm fine with it. I trust Danny Ainge is what I'm saying.
I like the direction the team's going by getting young and smart.
And on that note, we have some room for improvement, and we are going to leave you all. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Room for Improvement. Where can people find you on the internet for more dumb, awful jokes like that, Mr. Posey?
It's a perfect time to say where you can find me after one of arguably my worst jokes ever. You can find me on Twitter at Sebastian Posey, SebastianPosey.
And you can find me
in the club.
Checking
your phone?
No. You can find me on Twitter.com at Joshua Zavadil. You can find my name spelled at JOSHUAZA. V as in victory, A, D as in dog, I as in indigo, L as in leotard.
That's right, folks. He cannot pronounce words, but he can spell them.
I can. I am speller. And for Sebastian Posey, I am Josh Zavadil. We hope you've enjoyed this. We hope you've enjoyed the NBA draft. And we hope you'll join us next time for more Room for Improvement.